Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making tonight's show a part of your evening as the San Francisco 49ers get off with a 32-19 win over the New York Jets in Week 1. Post-game show and instant reaction coming your way. And our watch party was absolutely awesome, by the way. 210,000 plus views throughout the evening as San Francisco put forward a really dominant performance in this football game. And let's talk about it. And I just want to begin by saying this. I know it's the New York Jets. And the New York Jets for a long time have been a dumpster fire of an organization. A joke. Their playoff drought, it's criminal to a fan base that knows football and really cares about the game of football. But this is a different Jets team. And this is a Jets team that has one of the best defenses in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers is back healthy off that torn Achilles from last year. And from what we saw tonight, he could still play at a really solid level. Breece Hall is one of the best dual-threat running backs in the National Football League. And Garrett Wilson is a really good wide receiver in this league. And we saw in moments in this game that this Jets defense, like last year, has the ability to be one of the top units in the entire NFL. And so for San Francisco to dominate this game in the fashion that they did, this is a really impressive Week 1 victory for the Niners to kick off the 2024 campaign. You win by 13, but the Jets score a garbage time touchdown, and really throughout the duration of this ball game, San Francisco was able to dominate. And you think about the circumstances, right? And the context that's very important amidst this conversation. Think about all of the weird things that have transpired for the Niners since that heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs back in February in the Super Bowl. And you have to factor that in, right? Because that loss to Kansas City was a kick in the stones. It was a heartbreaker. It was devastating. And that dark cloud of losing that game, it's hovered around this organization, and it's going to continue to haunt this organization. But you have that, which has been a part of this offseason. This Brandon Aiyuk contract dilemma dragged on, and it was noisy, it was loud, and there was a lot of drama that was involved with that situation. Trent Williams was holding out. And this San Francisco team went about its business throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, without two excellent players, a second-team All-Pro in Brandon Aiyuk, and a perennial first-time All-Pro in Trent Williams. 2 weeks ago, they signed Aiyuk. Last week, they got the rework deal done with Trent Williams. Those are two pivotal pieces for this Niners offense, and they went the entire preseason and training camp without those players up until 2 weeks ago. So to patchwork this offense in a way against a really legitimate defense and to completely dominate New York in the way that San Francisco did, I come away from this game saying, this team is only scratching the surface. This team was able to flush that Super Bowl defeat, flush all of the weirdness that has happened with this team. Ricky Pearsall getting shot in the chest 2 weeks ago, and they're able to get in the win column the way that they did. The 49ers in this game able to put up 401 yards of total offense to the Jets' 266. They were able to run for 180 yards, led by Jordan Mason. And they dominated time of possession 38 minutes and 40 seconds to 21 minutes and 20 seconds. And a couple of things here. Imagine if the Niners were able to finish their drives with touchdowns instead of field goals. A positive from this game, Jake Moody was 6 of 6 in this game. But the Niners can be even better as an offensive unit if they turn those drives into 7 and not 3. And then for a first-year defensive coordinator in Nick Sorensen to have this defense clicking like they were and to force 2 turnovers, Fred Warner, the peanut punch on Breece Hall, and then Deommodore Lenoir with a great play on the football while blanketing Garrett Wilson, one of the top receivers in this game, to jar that ball free, deflect it up to Demetrius Flanagan fouls. The Niners able to win the turnover battle 2-0. There are a lot of really good takeaways from this game, and we were wondering all offseason, is San Francisco going to be able to flush losing that Super Bowl? Are they going to be able to mentally overcome that? Well, Kyle Shanahan ran laps around Robert Saleh. This Niners offense against an elite defense was able to dominate them and run the ball right down their throats. And this is a Niners offense that last year struggled against some of the top defenses in the National Football League. So you should feel very good about this team, all things considered, with what transpired this offseason and the performance that they had here tonight in Week 1 with all of the moving parts this offseason. Now, before we continue to keep it moving, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Here on the Niners Report during our watch party, we surpassed 140,000 subscribers, so hit that sub button for daily shows on the Niners. Plenty of more to get to. Please don't go anywhere. I promise you, you won't regret it, because who doesn't like celebrating and talking about a Niners win? But we do have to give a shout out to our friends at Prize Picks for making tonight's 49ers Report possible. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike on other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. There is a great deal that Prize Picks is running. Sign up today. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Our selections that we liked going into this game, Brandon Aiyuk had a bad dropped touchdown. It was an egregious drop on a dime from Brock Purdy. We did like the more than 48.5 receiving yards, and for Breece Hall, more than the 64.5 rushing yards. We didn't get the more, but that's what makes this game fun. So, Daily Fantasy Sports made easy. Download the app, create an account, use the code CLNS, prizepicks.com/CLNS. As we talk about some individual performances here, the star of the show, the star of the evening, was Jordan Mason. Christian McCaffrey, a late scratch because of that lingering calf and Achilles issue. And Jordan Mason has a career performance. And once the Niners started to find their groove offensively, they were led by the physical running of Jordan Mason. 28 carries, 147 yards, a touchdown, and a long of 24. And honestly, those numbers could have been better if it weren't for a couple of bad penalties that the Niners had offensively, which took big runs away from Jordan Mason and the officials making some bad calls. I was looking at my Twitter receipts and my Twitter history from when Jordan Mason was a UDFA out of Georgia Tech. And I remember here on the Niners Report, I was talking about how Jeff Collins, who coached Jordan Mason at Georgia Tech, used to call Jordan Mason and compare him to Marshawn Lynch. He ran and runs with that Marshawn Lynch type of physicality and purpose, power, and force. This is a legitimate weapon that the Niners have. And I remember watching him in the preseason 2 years ago saying, this kid can really play. And then throughout this offseason, I've been saying, Jordan Mason has to be the RB2 and not Elijah Mitchell. He is a legitimate weapon for this Niners team. It seems as though every time he gets his hands on the football, he's picking up 5 yards per carry. So with Christian McCaffrey scratched, he gets the start, and he was an absolute star in this football game. And if the Niners can find a way to incorporate him offensively a little bit more, you have this thunder-lightning combination in the running back room that can be really dynamic for this team. This New York Jets front and linebacking core is excellent. You have Quinnen Williams at defensive tackle. You have his brother, Quincy Williams, and C.J. Mosley at linebacker, and they could not stop Jordan Mason. There's this decisiveness and this balance, this power, and this purpose that he runs with, which just stands out to you. And a lot of my coworkers, when McCaffrey got scratched, they were panicking And I was telling them, if you could pick up Jordan Mason, pick him up. He's one of the best players in the NFL who people don't know about. He would start at running back for a lot of other teams across the NFL. And with Christian McCaffrey dealing with this injury, there's no rush to bring him back because he's so important to what the Niners do offensively. He's been the skilled player offensive MVP since the trade over the last year and a half. And when he does come back, you sign McCaffrey to that extension through 2027. You're paying him a lot of money. There's just no reason to run him into the ground. Conserve him. Preserve him. Have him fresh for late in the year. But operate and run Christian McCaffrey out of the slot. Run Jordan Mason in the backfield. Find ways to incorporate him because this dude can play, and the receipts have been there in flashes and moments his first 2 years in the NFL. And for him to have this breakout performance is awesome. I had him as a breakout candidate, and for him to shine the way that he did, he turned a lot of heads, and now he's going to get people talking outside of just the Bay Area and people who watch this show. So good for Jordan Mason to really pop off the way that he did. Kyle Shanahan still tried to give Deebo Samuel a lot of carries. He used him pretty much as the RB2. Not Patrick Taylor, not Isaac Guerrero. It was Deebo Samuel who got 8 carries for 23 yards. As for Brock Purdy, I thought that he played good football. It could have been better, again, if not for a Brandon Aiyuk drop. And I thought that Aiyuk had 2 drops. Brock Purdy on the night, 19 of 29, 231. But the game plan for the Niners here was to run the football. And as a team, they run it 38 times for $180. Now, Jawan Jennings on the receiving end, 5 catches for 64. It was great to see him involved in the pass game. Deebo Samuel, 5 for 54 on 9 targets. By the way, Jennings, 5 catches on 5 targets. He continues to be automatic, and tonight had a couple of clutch grabs and clutch situations. Kyle Juszczyk, 2 for 40, along at 34. George Kittle, 4 for 40. Aiyuk, 2 for 28. And Jordan Mason, 1 for 5. It was a big third down conversion. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different receivers who Brock Purdy completed passes to. As for Aiyuk, Brock Purdy threw a straight-up dime to him in the end zone, and he dropped it. When you are making $30 million per year, when you get $76 million in guaranteed money, when you are a top 5 highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, expectations are going to be higher. And Brandon Aiyuk looks like a player who held in throughout training camp and has had no live game reps in the preseason, has barely practiced at all. He looked fatigued. He looked gassed. That's why the Niners had to spell him for Chris Conley on a couple of occasions, and he didn't look ready to play in an NFL game. Inexcusable for a player like Brandon Aiyuk at his caliber to drop the 2 passes that he did. One, he had a ball caught against Sauce Gardner. Gardner punched it out. And then the touchdown throw, which was dropped at a critical moment before the half, in which the Niners had an opportunity to extend their lead. They had to settle for a field goal there. It can't happen for Aiyuk, and it can't happen after you hold out, hold in, and you cause all this drama, you stir up this controversy, you don't practice until a couple of weeks ago, and then you look pretty shitty like you did tonight. Now, do I think that this is going to be a season-long thing for Aiyuk? No, I'm a believer in the player. I love the player. I advocated for him to sign this deal with San Francisco and for the Niners to sign him. But for everybody saying it's the Niners' fault, it's the Niners' fault. They didn't sign him till late. Aiyuk took a deal that was on the table earlier in August. He decided not to take it and then didn't practice until 2 weeks ago. So it's actually on him. So those are some of the thoughts that I have offensively. As for this team defensively, 2 touchdown scoring drives for the Jets in this game when it actually mattered. On the first touchdown drive, Aaron Rodgers able to complete a couple of third down conversions to Garrett Wilson. He was pretty surgical on that drive. I think he went 6 of 7. And then there was another touchdown drive in which there was a free play. Aaron Rodgers threw a deep downfield for Allen Lazard. Nathaniel Hackett, funny enough, is calling the plays as the OC for the Jets. All things considered, with Nick Sorensen calling his first game as a defensive coordinator, as the DC for the Niners, and the first time he's ever called plays in the NFL, I thought he did pretty damn good. To hold the Jets to 13 points when it mattered, and 19 points for the game. For San Francisco to be as good against the run as they were, 19 carries, 68 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, it's pretty good. And the Niners also able to force 2 turnovers. A Fred Warner forced fumble on Breece Hall, and then that play that I mentioned earlier as Deommodore Lenoir and Demetrius Flanagan fouls link up for that pick. What's crazy is that the Niners last year were 10-4 when forcing 1 or more turnovers. And once again, they forced 1 or more turnovers, and they win this game. San Francisco also was 0-5 when they scored less than 22 points last year. They scored 32. They averaged around 30 last year. And again, there is room for this offense to get even better, to get more acclimated with Trent Williams, who fought like hell to play this entire game. Shout out to him at 36 years old. For Aiyuk to get acclimated, and if the Niners can score 7 instead of settling for 3, they damn near could have put 45, 50 points on the board in this game. So you look ahead to week 2, Niners play the Minnesota Vikings. They have not beat Minnesota in Minneapolis since 1992. It's an early game. It's going to be 10 a.m. on the West Coast. There's no excuse to lose that football game against an inferior opponent, against a team that you lost to last year that has a really good defense led by Brian Flores, who caused fits for this Niners offense last year. So, in summary here, I feel good about the Niners. I wasn't sure what to expect. I took them to win 24-20, but for them to dominate this game the way that they did, it goes to show you how much talent they have. And when you think about the landscape of the NFC, which teams look the best in this conference this weekend and in week 1? Niners are the best team in the NFC. I was really impressed with Philadelphia. Detroit and Los Angeles, they battled it out, but did they get that much better from last year to this year? I still think the Niners are a better team. So where they sit in the NFL, where they sit in the NFC, positive takeaways from this game. Offensive line, still kind of an issue. Colton McKivitz got bullied at points. Jake Brendel as well. But then the Niners make adjustments, and they play bully ball against the Jets, and they just ground and pound them all night long. So grade the Niners in week 1. Team grade, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know down in the comment section. San Francisco is 1-0.